I'd like to bring in U.S. Representative Julie Johnson, a Democrat from Texas. Representative Johnson, thank you so much for your time today. I want to start with what we're seeing play out live there in Minneapolis. What do you think it is going to take to tamp down tensions there? Because it really does seem like neither side is willing to back down.
Well, I think first and foremost, Noem, the head of this entire agency, needs to come in and say, we are not going to violate people's constitutional rights in this country. We're not going to have a situation where ICE agents go and execute people in their car for no reason. And the problem that we've had is rather than recognizing the wrongfulness of what happened to Renee Good, they have doubled down. They've added more people. They're terrorizing more people. We just saw videos of them yanking an innocent woman out of her car who was disabled, completely disregarding the rights of the American people.
All right, so Representative Johnson, we're now a week out from Renee Good's fatal shooting by that ICE officer. There's talk of Congress reining in DHS funding as a direct consequence. Republican Congressman Ralph Norman, he was asked about that. I'd like to listen to what he said.
I'm not concerned. Anything Democrats do, nothing surprises me. They're taking the side of the criminals for the politicians to flame that hatred for ICE agents who are arresting criminals out of their community. There's no excuse for what they're doing. They need consequences. I hope the people hold them accountable.
All right, Congresswoman, he feels as many Republicans do. What is your reaction to what we just heard there, and what do you think should happen with DHS funding?
Well, he's just absolutely wrong. What we're really upset about is obviously not the arrest of hardened criminals. Everyone is for that. But what we're not for is the complete trampling of the constitutional rights of due process, of all the sorts of things that our Constitution guarantees by these ICE agents against the American people. You cannot just sit in your car peacefully and not do anything and be shot in the face and executed by the American government. That is a no-go, and the American people are strongly against what's happening. And the Republicans are just completely ignoring and allowing this, and they're turning a blind eye, and they're just ignoring what is happening on the streets. And what you're seeing is complete outrage by the voters, by the American people, of what ICE is doing right now.
I'd like to listen to a bit of what DHS spokesperson Tricia McLaughlin told Chris Cuomo this week.
You don't have to convince me not to touch law enforcement. I understand it, and it exists for a good reason, all right? They may be wrong, but that is not the time to have the fight when you're being detained. I understand that. But there's a difference between going after a guy as if he was here illegally and he's telling you that he isn't, and you get into an altercation. You know what I'm saying? Versus just going and not liking that ICE is there and being abusive. Very different.
Chris, very different, but we're using our Title VIII authorities, and we are using reasonable suspicion protected from the Fourth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. If there are arrests of U.S. citizens, it's because they are impeding or obstructing our law enforcement or laying their hands on them. We've obviously saw that time and time again over the weekend, a number of these riots and protests. We've seen this highly coordinated campaign. I mentioned those vehicle rammings before.
All right, so McLaughlin, they're talking about, these attacks on what they call attacks on officers. They say they are attempting to, arrest the worst of the worst, get criminals out of our country. We've seen the administration double down, send in more officers now to the Minneapolis area after this fatal shooting. What type of message is that sending from your perspective?
Yeah, I think that the message that the Department of Homeland Security and ICE is sending to the American people is we don't give a damn about your constitutional rights. We're going to do whatever we want to do. And they're exercising domination and authority. We have the right to protest in this country. We have the right to say what you're doing is wrong. We have the right to say we don't support this. That is a fundamental First Amendment right of free speech. And what ICE is doing is they're just tackling people. They're harming people. They're shooting people. They're tear gassing people for exercising their rights of protest. Many of the videos that we see, they're just standing there or they're just sitting in their car. They're not attacking these folks. No one supports physically assaulting an ICE officer. I certainly don't, and none of my Democratic colleagues do either. But we vehemently oppose ICE exercising this brutal domination over people who are exercising the First Amendment rights of free speech, the First Amendment rights to protest in this country, because that is who we are. We are not a dictatorship. We are not an authoritarian regime that stamps down protests like we see in other parts of the world.
Representative, the video of Renee Good's fatal shooting is essentially like a Rorschach test. People look at it. They see very different things. They see what they want to see. There are plenty of Americans who feel that Good was in the wrong. The ICE agent was justified, and its case closed. What would you like to see out of the investigation? Do you think Washington lawmakers, Democrats specifically, will really be able to do anything when it comes to how this shooting is investigated?
Right. When I look at the shooting of Renee Good, I see an execution of an innocent person by our United States government. I think it's absolutely wrong. I think this agent needs to be held criminally responsible. I think Congress needs to take a look at these immunity laws. And when these men and women of ICE clearly exceed their authority, clearly abuse the constitutional rights and privileges of the American citizens, clearly violate the law and engage in murder, they need to be held personally responsible. So I think we need to take a look at the immunity laws that are out there. And we also need to take a look at the funding for this agency that's ramping up and encouraging these sorts of things. You know, we all want a safe and secure immigration system. You know, we all want people to man the booths at the airport. We all want that. But what we don't want are these Rambo-type agents running around the streets of this country, yanking people out of their cars, tackling them for no reason, causing people physical harm, just because they're not bowing to the order of an ICE agent. In this country, we have the right to stand up for what we believe in.
All right, last question for you, Representative. It is January, but it's never too early to talk midterms. Do you think November is going to bring big wins for Democrats? Is your party prepared to get some things done, whether it is in regards to the immigration crackdown, to DHS, to affordability, to healthcare, to America's involvement in so many global issues? There are a lot of hot topics. What is it going to take for Democrats to really incite some change?
Well, I think we did incite some change on the health care. If you look at it, you know, the government was shut down because Republicans refused to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits. Democrats were relentless. We communicated to our constituents. The American people responded, really expressed their frustration with Republicans in Congress for not addressing the health care affordability crisis. We had a discharge petition, and we passed it out of the House, a 3-year extension of the Affordable Care Act. So I think Democrats are moving the needle, and we're getting stuff done. And to your question, yes, I think the November midterms are going to be a sea change in this political landscape. I think Democrats are going to have strong results because the people are very upset with what is happening in this country right now.
Representative Julie Johnson, a Democrat from Texas, really appreciate your time today.
It's always good to be with you.